Okay, so I got my half-gallon jug in hand. Well, most of the gallon jug in hand. Got some mash out water heated up here. I'm gonna go ahead and dip this down. Grab as much as we can, really. Then we're gonna pop over to the mash tun. This is what they call fly sparging. Now, a lot of folks will just take their water, dump it on in there, and drain the whole thing at once. You can see here that we got the wort running down. Looks like an awesome beer so far. I love this Maris Otter. Just looks like a killer ale. Now, like I said, it's important to use a slotted spoon, I think. To me, this is what separates the men from the boys, so to speak. You're actually going to take this and really make sure that you are rinsing through your grain bed as best you can. This stuff is premium imported malt. Why waste it? You know what I'm saying? I mean, really make sure that you're getting the most out of it and don't just blow it off. And again, the whole point of this is so you're not punching holes through the grain bed. I know this is getting repetitive, but really trying to drill that in. And the idea is too, you know, we have the manifold underneath. So by getting all up into these corners here, I'm going to go all up and down this grain bed and wash out all of it. I remember the first time I made an all grain beer, I made an Oktoberfest, which is one of my favorites. And I thought I did a pretty good job of, you know, making sure that I got the water. And I remember thinking to myself, like, well, the water's touching everything. It's probably, you know, going to be good enough to just kind of pour it through the middle or whatever. And when the beer was all finished, you know, I went back inside to go start cleaning up my water tun, and I took a little pinch of the malt and I tasted it. It was nice and sweet. I'm like, oh man, this malt's really good. If you've done this right, your malt should taste like nothing. It should just taste like fibrous, empty material with no flavor to it at all, really. So if you actually go through and pour water through every single part of the grain bed, you will wash out all those sugars. You will get a fuller beer, and you're going to get more bang for your buck, and you're not just going to be throwing away all that malt. I mean, you might as well have reduced that quantity of malt from your grain bill and saved it for another beer if you're not going to bother to get it all out. So like I said, there's a lot of other guys that have great success with just, you know, batch sparging, just dumping their water through, and it doesn't have to be this tedious and pretentious, but I like to do it this way. You know, the sparge takes about 45 minutes like this, and it just makes sure that you're really getting the most out of it, and it's what I recommend, it's what I do myself, but certainly if you guys are having great success doing it your way too, I'm not telling anybody they're wrong, I'm not telling anybody that, you know, you got to do it like this, but this is definitely what I recommend. So again, this is sparging, and then after this, we're going to get all this put together. And again, I love using these ale pails because they're calibrated on the side, so we can see exactly how much wort we're getting. For this beer, we're going for 6 gallons of wort. We're only boiling for 1 hour on this one. We're going to reduce it down to 5 gallons. And you guys will see the boiling and hop additions right after this. One thing I forgot to mention earlier, guys, take a look here. As you're adding the sparge water on top of the grain bed, when you first start doing it, and I should have done it before and after, but the water is well, it looks like wort right on top, you know what I'm saying? Like if you look down at this wort bucket, you can see how dark and sweet that water looks. That wort looks, I should say. You can already see that the wort running down off the side is already getting a lot thinner in color. And also too, like on the top of the grain bed, like I'm saying, it's not nearly as dark as it was before. It's starting to look just like regular old sparge water right on top. That's what you want to see. If you're doing this right, there should be less and less and less and less sugar as you're adding more and more quarts of water to run off. So if you're not seeing that, your wort may not, or your water might not be hot enough, and you're probably not diffusing it very well. So like I said, make sure you get into all those corners, get all the pockets, and get all that sugar out. And if it's not working right, you will have indicators that you might think back on later and be like, oh, that's why it looked like that, or oh, whatever. So if this is your first brew, these are the kinds of things you want to be looking for. Okay, and I just want to mention this to you guys too, especially if you're a first timer. If you want to take a look at this grain bed here, it looks like we're about exhausted. Okay, there's no, it's not really in suspension anymore. It doesn't look like. Looks like we're kind of tapping out. You can still see there's some wort running off into our well, ale pail here, but we're not quite to where we want to be. We're literally about a gallon short of being at 6 gallons. Now I know how much water I've put into here. So, you guys are probably starting to wonder at this point, should I be heating up more sparge water to run through to collect what I need? Well, what I would suggest before you do that is this really, really, really high-tech and expensive solution I've invented, or other people have used all the time. Get yourself a damn phone book or something like that and jack this thing up. Just go ahead and kick its ass up a little bit, get it at an angle, and boom, you're going to have more wort running right off all day long. You'd be amazed at how much more wort you could run off of here. If you just let this thing sit, a lot of times I'll just take out what I need. I'll close this valve for a minute. I'll dump this into my boil kettle. Now, another thing I want to mention to you guys is too, when this plastic gets heated, you know, the molecules are nice and flexible. This thing is really, really, really squishy. Okay, and this handle, I don't always trust these things. My boil kettle is a lot more solid, so I'll take this, dump that into my boil kettle right here in my kitchen, then carry my boil kettle outside. I wouldn't trust this thing. It gets real bendy, and if you lost 5 or 6 gallons of wort in your living room, I don't know about you, but I'd be having a pretty shitty day at that point. So go ahead and let this thing run off and then close that valve. And what I was getting at is, when you come back inside, go ahead and open it back up again for this one and just keep letting it run through. You might be surprised at what you end up with. By the time you're done boiling outside, you might end up with a couple quarts of more wort that you didn't even realize was still in there, and that might be your starter right there. No more water need to be heated, nothing else, no other steps. So just want to mention that. So next time we come back, we should really be boiling this time. Okay guys, just wanted to talk about some basic boiling procedure, and I'm sorry about the wind and stuff. We actually have freezing rains in the forecast tonight, so go Wisconsin. And to my friends in North Carolina and Georgia and Louisiana, you guys don't know shit about being hard. Basically what we have here is a 7.5 gallon turkey fryer pot, okay? So we're doing a pretty small beer tonight. I'm usually doing 90-minute boils, which usually means I'm working with at least a 6.5 gallon starting wort, okay? Because you're boiling the beer down. It goes down 1 gallon every hour. So in this case, we're not that close to the top. But if you are doing a 6.5 gallon beer in a 7.5 gallon pot, that means you have 1 gallon of headspace. Now, when a solution reaches a boil, it actually increases in volume by 4%. You're going to notice that. And because it's beer, you're going to get this big ass head on it. So if you're not mindful of what temperature you're at, you can find yourself in a situation where your beer is dumping over before you even know what's going on. So it's important that you do take frequent temperature readings just to see where you're at, okay? Because you're not really going to see much of a change. Like right now, we're probably in the 180s, 190s. As the beer gets right up to, you know, 208, 210 degrees, you're going to notice a nice head starting to form. That's your indicator something's about to happen. You're going to see the beer changing right before it boils, so you can usually catch it, but you want to drop your temperature significantly, or you will dump your beer if you're close to the top. Same thing goes for when you're adding hops. When hops break up, sink down into the beer, those particulates cling to bubbles rising through the beer. It's going to get spit right up to the top and want to fall right off the sides. You're going to lose your hops. You're going to scorch the side of your kettle. The beer is going to be a hot mess. Literally, it's going to be a hot mess. You don't want that. Also, what I want to mention is, I'm an extremely conservative person when it comes to spending money or making things. So anytime I'm making a beer, I'm trying to get as much volume for as little money as I can while still making a great beer. So what I used to do is put a lid on the top of the beer to prevent evaporation. Because I'm like, well, if I'm trying to come up with 5 gallons of beer and I've boiled it and I've done all these things, of course I want to get as much beer as I can. But don't do that. Okay, the reason you want this stuff to actually boil off is you have those tannins we talked about before actually binding with the steam and being carried away. There's some bittering flavors that are going to be in here that are boiled off, and you want to actually let those escape as opposed to hit a lid and then fall right back down and never go anywhere. So leave the lid off, boil as long as possible. Any beer, in my opinion, probably should be made for 90 minutes. The idea is you're caramelizing the sugars inside and getting as much flavor as you can out of it. But the reality is, with the beer that we're making today, which is a steam beer, if I haven't actually said that out loud in a video yet, it isn't going to make a whole hell of a lot of difference. Same thing for the reason why we did the single infusion mash with our British 2-row, because should we have done 122 degree rest on it? That's what the directions say. Is it going to make a difference? No, you're not going to taste it. So we just kind of went ahead and bypassed those things. But again, just basic fryer etiquette. You know, if you've never done this before, most of these fryers have some kind of a timer on them. I've seen guys that have one that has batteries in it, and you have to come out and punch a button every 15 minutes or the gas will shut off. There's a solenoid that runs here that's actually obviously activating to the temperature. So as long as it stays hot and you keep your egg timer going on this particular one, it's going to keep on running. So what I'm saying is, if you go downstairs or go wherever to wash out a carboy or whatever you're going to be putting this into, an ale pail, and you're wandering off, it's been more than 15 or 20 minutes, you get sucked into a show or whatever, this thing's going to turn off. And if you live in Wisconsin, this thing's going to get really cold really fast, and you're going to be really starting all over again. So make sure you come out, check on your timer. Don't do anything stupid with the gas. You are dealing with an open flame. And also, I also like to have a second propane tank on hand just in case. If you get like 6 hours into a brew, you run out of propane, again, you're having a bad day. So just have propane on hand. Make sure you're keeping up on your egg timer. Keep an eye on the temperature. Don't let this thing boil over. You're going to be just fine. We're going to come back for the hop additions. We'll show you how that works. And then we're pretty much getting close to being done here.